this TBR is not going to happen. This is probably the most unreasonable TBR that I have ever set. But logic has left the room at this point. It is gone. There is no logic to be found. Hey friends, it's Robin. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are finally doing my February TBR. It is very late in the month in January. February starts on Wednesday. It is Monday. I am behind. February is going to be a pretty chaotic month in general, both in my personal life and my reading life. February is my birthday month, which is kind of exciting, I guess. I don't know, as I get older, my birthday becomes less and less of a thing I celebrate, but it is my birthday month. I also have some family things going on, some other things happening in the month of February. It's also the shortest month of the year. It is also Black History Month, which means that we have Blackathon happening, which I'm excited to participate in. We also have Favre Feb, which is all about reading fantasy romances. I have a book club book for Riley's Patreon. I have ARCs. I have my own personal reading goals, including my winter TBR that I need to wrap up. I have my trope wheel that we need to do. I have a goal to get ahead, like a month ahead on my ARCs, so I need to get through a bunch of those. So there's a lot happening. If you have watched my previous TBRs, you know that I usually pick prompts out of this little jar that help guide my TBR. We're going to do things a little differently this month. We're still going to do this, but this is not going to dictate my entire TBR. As you can see, I have some books set off to the side that I'm hoping to read, and there are some things that I need to get in that I can't push aside because of this. So we're going to get the couple of things out of the way that I know that I'm doing this month. So first up for Riley's Patreon, our buddy read for the month is Daughter of No Worlds. This is an adult fantasy romance that I know nothing about. I picked this up because of this buddy read. I had been seeing it going around quite a bit over on Instagram as well as on YouTube, and so it was something that I had already added to like my Kindle list, so I just downloaded it for this buddy read. I've heard really good things. I believe it's a trilogy, and I think it's completed. Don't hold me to that. And then I have 4 arcs that are definitely happening. First is Sorry Bro by Telene Bascuni, which actually comes out tomorrow when I'm filming this. It comes out January 31st. This is all about like a dating event, so I think it'll be fun to read for February anyways. This is following our heroine, who is an Armenian woman, and right at the beginning of the book, her like long-time boyfriend proposes to her in like an absolutely terrible way, and so she ends up breaking off the relationship. And her meddling mother ends up like setting her up for this dating event in the city. And it is with these other Armenian people who are all like touring the city and doing all these different events. And our heroine ends up befriending and falling in love with one of the other women that is involved in this dating event. So it is a sapphic romance between the two of them. This cover is adorable. This has really beautiful chapter headers, and I'm very excited to give this one a read. I also have Wild Blood by Lauren Blackwood. This is actually a YA horror, which isn't necessarily my thing, but I read this author's debut book, which was Within These Wicked Walls, which was like a gothic retelling of a classic. I'm totally blanking on what it was retelling of, but I really liked that one. And so I've had this author just kind of like on my radar for whenever she releases her next book. This author gives me a lot of the same vibes as Alexis Henderson, just in the YA genre. And so I'm really excited to give this one a read. This is a February arc, so I need to get to it. This is going to be in my February releases video, which is coming out in just a couple of days. So I will actually tell you the synopsis in that video because I'm filming that next, and I will actually read the synopsis for that video. Then we have Not Your Ex's Hexes by April Asher, which is so difficult to say, but this is the sequel to Not the Witch You Wed, and in this one we are following the sister of the heroine in that first book, and our heroine in this book was always kind of supposed to be the matriarch of the witches, like the leader of the witches, and our heroine in book 1 ends up taking over that title, and now this heroine is kind of trying to figure out what is next in her life, and I believe this is an enemies to lovers romance. I might be making that up. I'm very excited for this. I really liked that first book. I thought it was like just a really fun, over-the-top time, and I'm excited to get back into this world. And then the last arc that I have is The Neighbor Favor by Christina Forrest, which is another book that is coming out in February, and in this one we're following our heroine, who is this like quiet, shy bookworm, and she ends up recruiting her like neighbor, I think, to help teach her how to date or something like that. And it turns out that he is like this massive author that she is kind of obsessed with, but he writes like under a pseudonym, so she doesn't know that it's him, and it is their romance. I love a forced proximity romance where like between neighbors, and then the like secret identity trope on top of that has me so excited for this book. On top of that, I have a couple of new releases and things that I want to prioritize. So these are rereads, these are new releases, and these are series that I'm behind on that I really want to catch up on. So first up, for Favre Feb, I really want to read Visions of Heat by Nalini Singh. I started this series in 2020, and I still haven't read book 2. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I loved book 1. I ended up giving it 5 stars, and I just need to continue on with the series. This is an urban fantasy that is like a parallel world where there are 3 different races. There are humans, there are Sais, and there are shifters. And this one is a shifter Sai romance. The Sais are kind of the ones that are in charge. They're psychics. They control pretty much everything, and they consider themselves like the higher beings, and the shifters are starting to test them. There is a lot of political maneuvering and things in here, and I'm very excited to get back into this world. I love Nalini Singh's writing. I've read her entire Guild Hunter series, and I just need to catch up on this one. I also have The Beautiful here next to me. I need to get into my reread of this. This is a YA historical paranormal romance series all surrounding our heroine who is moving to New Orleans to restart her life. And when she gets there, she ends up getting wrapped up into this group of people who may or may not be paranormal beings. And the quartet is finishing up in February. The Ruined, which I'm going to pop up right here, comes out in February. And I absolutely need to reread these first 3 books before getting to this. Not because I don't remember, because I've read the first 3 books 2 or 3 times at this point. This, I think, is going to be my 4th time reading The Beautiful. I love this series so much that I need to reread it again. And then the last physical book that I have is I really need to read From Lukov with Love by Mariana Zapata, because this is on my winter TBR. It's huge, and I haven't read it yet. So ice skating romance, slow burn, enemies to lovers. I feel like everyone knows what this book is about at this point, but I need to read it. So that is also on the TBR. On top of all of that, we have Maniac by Anya James coming out in February, hopefully. I am part of Anya James's Patreon, and she is still releasing unbaited chapters. So my expectations of this coming out on time are a little low. I don't know if it's going to happen or not. I have my fingers crossed that it will, but I mean, if it gets pushed back, like, I'm totally cool with that. Like, I'd rather have the perfect book than have it be rushed. So I'm hopeful that it'll come out, but I'm not overly optimistic that it's going to come out. We also have The Right Move by Liz Tomford, which is the sequel to Mile High, which I really, really loved. I read it in January for the vlog that I'm hopefully posting before this video comes out. It's not edited yet, and it's still not edited yet. We'll see if it actually happens, but I read that. I gave it 5 stars. I'm very excited for this one. This is following the heroine in book 1's twin brother. He is a basketball star. He is falling in love with a girl named Indy who recently got out of a relationship, and they are living together. So a forced proximity romance, which I love. Then we have The Husband Hoax by Saxon James, which is book 1 in a new series. This is a marriage of convenience romance between these 2 men. I believe one of them needs the fake marriage in order to get an inheritance, and I can't remember why the other one needed the marriage of convenience, but they both need it. This is another one that I will be talking about in my February releases, and I will have a better synopsis for you, I promise. And then the last one is not a new release, but it is a series that I need to finish catching up on because, again, it is on my winter TBR and I'm behind, and that is the next Criminal Intentions book. I need to finish books 11 and 12 in order to hit my winter TBR goal, so I, at the very least, want to get book 11 done, but I'm hoping that I can do both 11 and 12, especially since they are technically parts 1 and 2 of the same sort of series. This is a very episodic romance, so it's kind of like the season finale of this. So I can't really talk about the plot of this at this point because we are 11 books deep, but I am so curious to know what happens in these final 2 books because the plot has definitely like accelerated, and where we ended in book 10 has me desperate to get to these. Okay, that was so many books already that we just covered. On top of that, for my final like absolute necessary book, we have to go through my trope wheel. I've already gone through and done this trope wheel, so you are seeing me spin the wheel, and we landed on cheating romances. Now, I have this many books set aside on my Kindle and Scribd and Hoopla and all of these things, and I thought for sure that no matter what I landed on this wheel, I was going to have something that covered it. And there's literally not a single cheating romance. 30 books on this list, there's not a single one. So luckily I have amazing friends over on Instagram that were able to help me out. Stef from Teacups and Tropes hooked me up and told me to read The Secrets We Keep by Mia Monroe. I don't know much about this book. I am taking it as face value. Her little pitch to me was that this is an MM romance and one of the heroes is stealing his sister's fiance. That's all I know about it. So I'm trusting her. She has not steered me wrong at all yet. So hopefully I end up loving this one. She also recommended Egg by Marley Valentine, which is one of my favorite cheating romances of all time. So I'm hoping that this gives me a similar feel. So those are all of the books on my like necessary TBR. I thought that this is where we could add in my TBR prompts. So I have this massive list over here of things that I would like to read. And then I figured we could pick 4 prompts for each of them. And hopefully this will work out and we can pick some books off of this list. There are ones on here that I am more interested in reading than the others, but we're gonna see how this works out. So we're gonna start with the Favreau Feb, and then we're gonna go to the Blackathon / Black History Month books. I am also going to be doing a separate Blackathon recommendations / TBR video for the 48-hour readathon edition that Jessie is hosting. If you have not heard of Blackathon, I'm going to have the announcement video linked down below, but it is hosted by Jessie from Bowties and Books. I want to say this is their 5th edition or like round of Blackathon, which is crazy to think about, but the entire premise is to read books by Black authors. Very simple. There are 3 different teams that you can be a part of, and the way that I'm going to structure my recommendations video in TBR is going to be I'm going to give romance recommendations for each of the 3 teams and then share my TBR for the team that I'm participating in. Whether or not those books overlap with these books is to be determined because I haven't picked that TBR yet. But that readathon, the 48-hour readathon, is the 9th to the 11th, 9 a.m. on the 9th to 9 a.m. on the 11th, Central Standard Time, I believe. Jessie is in Minnesota, so I'm pretty sure it's Central Standard Time. Yeah, so that's that. Let's try this. Let's see if it works. I'm gonna start by picking 4, I think, for each. Is that overly ambitious? For sure. Let's see how this works. So round number 1 is going to be this one, and this is to read a backlist. Actually, most of these are backlist titles. I only have a couple that are new releases. This is so difficult because like so many of these are backlist titles, and I want to read them all. I think I'm gonna go with Eden by Lily Mayne, just because I think this is the one that's been sitting on my Kindle the longest. It's been there forever, and I just need to read it. I need to catch up with the series. This is a post-apocalyptic monster romance series that takes place in this world where monsters started to arise and the country kind of collapsed, and now people live on like the coasts, and the entire center part of the United States is just like wasteland. And all of these are romances between a human and a monster. And in this one, based on the cover, as you can tell, it is this giant purple monster. And I think this one's an MM romance. So that's what we're going to read for Backlist. Do I know when this was actually released? No, but I think we're on like book 6 or 7 at this point, so we're counting it. So the second prompt for Favreau Feb is going to be, oh, this one. And this is a queer book, which I love. Okay, for this one, sorry my ring light died. I don't feel like getting up to plug it in, so we're using natural light. Hopefully the light isn't a total mess. For this one, we're going to go with Yours Insatiably by Aveda Weiss. This is another one that I have owned forever. I haven't read it. And this is a female non-binary Mothman romance. Aveda Weiss is also a non-binary author, so this is queer all around. I did read the little novella in this series like right before this, which was a Feed, and I loved it. I loved that novella so much, and so I'm really excited to get the like full-length romance about this. But yeah, I have no idea why I've been putting this one off. I actually bought this one. I didn't even just download it. I purchased it with my own money, so let's do a third prompt. Let's pick this one. And this one is a book that has been recommended or hyped. Okay, for this one, I am gonna go with Evil Twin by Katie Wilde. This was recommended, I believe, in the A to Z romance live that I did over on Stef from Novelty Corners channel. If I'm remembering correctly, I've also been recommended this by Heather from Hia Booktubes, and no one will tell me what the plot of this is, and when they recommended it, they told me not to read the plot, so I downloaded this right away. It is sitting on my Kindle ready to go. Again, I don't know what the plot is at all. I know nothing about it other than the fact that it is shelved as fantasy romance. And then the final one for Faro Feb is going to be, let's pick this. Oh, that's 2. Let's go with this one. And this one is to read a dark romance, which I know exactly what I'm going to pick, and that is Vicious Bonds by Shanora Williams, because this has been pitched as a dark fantasy romance, and that's all I need to know. I know, again, know nothing about this plot because I have been hearing about this over on Instagram. The author has been pitching like some of the tropes and some little excerpts and things like that. It sounds like this is going to be like mafia adjacent dark romance, slightly fantastical. I believe one of the main characters is like telepathic or something like that, so there are fantasy elements to this. But again, I don't know the overall plot of this. I believe this is going to be a trilogy. It's definitely a series, and so I do know that this first book is going to end on a cliffhanger, which has me so nervous because I don't know when the next book is going to come. But I am very excited to give this one a try. This is also written by a Black author, but again, I don't know the identity of the main characters, so we shall see. Then we have Blackathon / Black History Month happening in the entire month of February. I have a ton. I have so many books that I have just been collecting over time. My Kindle is forever a giant wasteland of books that I download and then forget about. Like, I don't know if any other e-reader people have this problem, but I have a folder called Other, to where if I see a book that is on sale or free, I will purchase it and I will put it in that other folder, and the number of times that I actually look in that other folder is slim up. And I hate that I do that because there are books that I'm so excited about that I put in there and just I forget about them. I have a lot of those, as well as ones that I have just I did a little research for this, so there are ones on here that I've never heard of before, and I downloaded just for this moment. So let's see if this one works out as well as the Faro Feb one. So oh my god, a bunch of them just jumped out, but we're just gonna put them all back in. Prompt 1 is this one. And no, this is a big book. I have no idea if any of these are long. Actually, yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I do know. I have Revive Me by J.L. Seekers on here, which is book 2 in the like Restore Me world, and I'm pretty sure this one's 500 pages long. This is following the best friend / sister-in-law of Restore Me. I believe it is a second chance romance. I'm pretty sure the love interest that we met in Restore Me is the love interest in here, so I am interested in giving these one a try. I really liked Restore Me. This wasn't one that I was entirely thinking I would pick up this month. I think it's the longest one on here. I have a lot of novellas, so I think it's the longest one on here, so we're gonna do it. The second prompt is going to be, oh, they're stuck together. Let's go with this one. And this one is an author that I already love. For this one, I think I'm gonna go with the Tale of Two Cities Valentine's Day novella by Alexandra Warren. I have read almost every single book in this series. Fun fact, I don't know if anyone else is like this, but I cannot read holiday themed stories outside of that holiday. And the the book before this one was the New Year's Eve one, and I missed it at New Year's Eve. And now I feel like I have to wait until next New Year's Eve before I read it, which I know is so silly, but my brain can't turn that off. So we're skipping the New Year's Eve one. We're going to read the Valentine's Day one, which is fine because everyone has told me that this is their favorite. And these aren't connected as far as I can tell in any way. They're all just surrounding the holidays, and all of the main characters are named after US cities. So this is supposed to be everyone's favorite. I have absolutely loved this series so much. Her round number 3 is this one. And this is an ebook, which is literally any of them. And I think for this one, I'm going to get to the other one that I like desperately want to read on here. And that is Cupid's Peak by Lee Jacot, which is the next book in the Hollow Knights series. And again, do I know the synopsis of this? No, but it comes out February 7th, maybe. So I will, again, tell you the actual synopsis of this in my new releases video when I actually read the synopsis of this. And then the final prompt for this section is going to be this one. And this is a book with an odd page count. Normally I would use a physical book to do this so that it's easier, but instead we're going to use Goodreads, so BRB. All right, I got lucky on the first time. So we're going to go with Office Hours by Katrina Jackson. This supposedly has 197 pages according to Goodreads. I feel like Goodreads always has the weirdest page count because they count like the table of contents and the title page and all of that stuff. So that might not be 100% accurate, but we're going to work with it. This is an office place romance. That's all I know about it. I've seen this cover everywhere, and I know this isn't everyone's favorite, but Sabbatical is next, and I desperately want to read Sabbatical. I have this weird thing about reading things in order even when they're not completely connected. That's what we're going to read. Now, do I think that I'm going to read some of these other ones on here? Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of them are probably going to end up on my Blackathon TBR. Again, that you will be seeing next week. Is any of this doable? I mean, some of it maybe, but I know that I have now set my expectations way too high for the month of February. This TBR is not going to happen. This is probably the most unreasonable TBR that I have ever set. Usually I'm pretty good about keeping my TBRs logically reasonable, but logic has left the room at this point. It is gone. There is no logic to be found. And instead we're building a TBR of like 30 some books for a 28-day month that is hella busy. That's going to be it for this video. Let me know if you are participating in anything fun this month. Let me know what books you are hoping to prioritize, if any of these books are on your TBR, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!